Are we dancing?
It looks so pretty.
Yes. Y'all don't see the outside. My God. Y'all want to see the work happen? Watch this entire video. Like in its entirety. Don't edit this thing. Publish it as it is. Back. Cut that too.
Anyway, how are you giving me so much editing work? The purpose of this is so that I don't edit a lot.
Sorry. No, it's just 2 parts. Come on now.
No, it's
the
not.
credits would start rolling up the screen because we're taking forever.
Greetings to you all and welcome to Matt the podcast. I'm your host Marlice Mackenzie and I am here for a catch-up episode with Lufezo Zendwana Borja. Anyway, hi!
First time actually. Never mind. I was going to say, you said it very well.
Oh, thank you.
Very well.
Thank you. I always say your surname correctly. But anyway, let's not do that.
It's like freely. It's great. It wasn't overemphasized at some point. That's great. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Good stuff.
Oh my gosh, thank you. So, what we're going to be doing today is essentially just have a catch-up session, like I said. Honestly, to all my listeners, whether you're on YouTube or any of the audio podcast platforms, this is all for the sake of consistency, if I'm being honest. But I figured that it wouldn't make sense to just have an episode because of consistency, but then chances are there isn't necessarily anything valuable that you would get from that. So I figured, why not bring someone who has been on the podcast and has had value in the podcast as well and had something of substance to say when they were on, and that is why we have you here. Wow. So how are you? How have you been since you were last on the podcast? Yeah.
Now the first question is, when was the last time I was on the podcast?
This was probably like 2 months ago.
Oh. I don't think anything has changed. I've been okay.
Do you remember some of like the opinions, beliefs, and values you had? And
oh no, nothing's changed.
do you maintain? Okay, you still maintain those
I
values.
still maintain those values are very much.
Okay.
I've learned lessons along the way, obviously. I've added to everything. Obviously, the beliefs at the time will say they were a foundation. They still exist, but we've added on top of it. So, yeah.
Okay, that's actually
What
pretty
about you?
interesting. Pretty much the same, honestly. I think I have maintained the same stance, the same opinions that I had at the time, based on the book review that we were doing, of course. But also, I recently had a conversation with a friend about like something that I had posted prior, and I think that like while it's not specific to the last time you were in the podcast, it's something related to the previous podcasts that I've done, and it was basically like one of those mini podcasts that I put on TikTok over video, and it was basically the one about how you are where you're supposed to be type of thing, or rather that like, oh yeah, you are where you're supposed to be and probably that is God's will type of thing. And basically what the person brought to my attention was that that may be true but not in its fullest extent, in the sense that it could inspire laziness. So because this is God's will for my life, I'm not going to do anything about it because God knew that this was going to happen. So in a sense, me putting it like that kind of disqualifies the concept of free will, essentially.
I was about to ask, are you saying you don't have a role in anything that happens in your life because it's already been written?
Basically. So while of course that's not necessarily what I meant, that you don't have a role in your life, but then it kind of goes to show that like in that sense I didn't necessarily think of all the ways that this could be received, of course, but then it just kind of like, I don't disagree with the person, and I think that they're totally right, because that in a sense is what I was saying. Of course I should probably have done a better job at it. So this probably means that those short version podcasts that I've done, I should actually revisit and have like a longer form podcast with you'd actually get to say everything that you were thinking.
Okay.
But then yeah, that was like literally the one thing that I've kind of like grown from in a sense, because now you actually had someone debate that. That is why comment, like and subscribe is very important, because your comments allows me perspective as well. So basically we're kind of like feeding off of each other. We are watering each other. It's a symbiotic relationship. You see, I know the English language. I think that's something from like natural sciences or life sciences or something.
Oh my word.
Anyway, so yeah, that was pretty much it.
As we were speaking, I just had a thought. There's this thing that they say in Lufezo. Basically, life is give and take. So, in a et. It's
In a et.
Yeah, in a et.
In a it.
Yeah, give and take. For some reason,
Oh,
I
okay.
think Zonke's album a few years ago.
Nkakufi.
Yeah.
I just translated it to thingy.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I thought you were saying something else. Sorry.
No, did you think I was repeating what you were saying?
Yes, and I was like, oh my, what did she say? You know, I know I don't remember what I say, but my God, did you just say that? It said like this. I even went off and mentioned Zonke. I was mentioning Zonke because for some reason that her album, I'd be lying if I said the year, because for some reason my head wanted to say 2007. Like, that's very strange. But anyways, yes. Please let's not recall that. Give and Take. Let me just say Give and Take, her live album. Love that. I really love that. I don't know why I went down that path.
And it's exam season.
Why did you mention that?
Because I'm trying to get somewhere here.
Okay.
There's a lot of like uncertainty, of course, but like, you know, we always kind of like think of what the future is going to be like, but do we ever actually have conversation? You know how people have those like videos on things I wish I learned at 20, things I wish I want my younger self to know, but like your younger self doesn't exist, but we get the point anyway. So basically, like right now, how are you preparing for that, or rather for the future, and what is it now that you like look back to when you started uni and now? Of course there's been a lot of like changes, but what would you say is like the biggest change?
I just want to go back to the preparing part.
See how this turned into an interview? And I don't like interviews.
I want to be honest to your people here for a second. We know me. We know me. I don't know I know myself. You know me. There's no preparing. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, I feel like doing something today. I'm not prepared, people. I don't know. There's no plan here. Where do I see? Next, you're gonna ask me, where do I see myself in the next 5 years? My God, Marlice, God.
I get that, because I was literally saying the other day, I saw, I think it was Marlice. She posted on TikTok about how like she's preparing for like exams, something. And I was like, how do you even study? How do you prepare? Because I'm like, I feel like we read a lot when we write essays, but like that's different from studying. And I think I'd be speaking for the both of us, but I don't want to make assumptions.
No, you are.
But we don't really take psychology that seriously. We do psychology, but we don't really take it that seriously. Where you get people who actually study psychology.
If any of you out there are in the university admissions to the university that I applied to for psychology, hi. She speaks for herself. Speaking for herself. I personally take psychology very, very seriously.
And I will go on to say that, because now that just made me think a lot. This is not pretentious, by the way. I actually really like psychology. I just feel like I haven't gotten to the psychology part of psychology, and it's been 3 years already. And it's different because like different institutions do this differently. But then let's not do this, because that's starting to sound like one of those things where you know how you can't say something else when you belong to like a certain political party, because then it affects your future type of vibe.
You can't exactly go to that party if things fall apart.
Yeah, it's starting to sound something like that. So we're not going to retract that, but then, yeah, I was speaking for myself.
No, just speak for both of us.
Lufezo.
Don't worry. I didn't apply for psych anyway. I was just, you know what, if things get very bad like next year, you know you're going to start knocking on doors and be like, hey man, so I did psych, like in my undergrad, you know, the marks are decent, you know. You know, I don't really want to, I don't understand that much. I see a shrink, but that's different. She calls me out on my shit, basically. I don't understand why. I'll never truly understand why. But that lady makes you see this.
Actually,
I don't want to do that. I prefer being all over the place.
Actually, since we're on that psychology chat, right?
Yeah. It's a checkup. It's a check-in. There's no formula to this.
You're black, and we know that like in a lot of black homes, I mean, okay, it's pretty decent that right now we're in a position where we actually consider therapy as a source of help.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think, what would you practically sort of say, or how would you encourage people to like look into therapy, and why, and what are the benefits that you've kind of like received from that? And I also know that like probably for you it's not like one of those things where therapy has been taboo, because a taboo subject because of the environment you grew up in. But basically, like, what do you think of people in circumstances like that, because you know that also exists?
You know, in life, I don't think anyone ever puts a mirror in front of you and says, look at yourself. The one thing that I've been getting from my sessions is perspective, a different perspective, because obviously you go into whatever you go into with your own ideas, with your own understanding of, let's say, situations, scenarios, and all that. In therapy, what I've been getting from that lady, wonderful lady.
You have to mention that.
I don't want it to seem like I don't like her. I don't want to say I love her. Oh my god.
You love her, it's fine.
There's an ethics part in the psychology thing which says if
you're
you stop
not
liking your psychology,
if you're not in love with the person, you love them. Aren't we all God's children? We love one another.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Sure. But she's helped me understand myself better. Look at my patterns, my behaviors. This week, she actually called me out on relationships and a certain aspect of relationships. Well, not relationships per se, just everything. But can I say this? Like, my sexual life.
Mm-hmm.
The fears, thoughts around that, behaviors, patterns, which made me realize that maybe certain things are not. I think a lot about society. I think a lot about expectations, what you're meant to do.
I mean, you are a sociologist.
Yes.
In the making.
So expectations tend to direct what it is that I will do, maybe in, I want to say a relationship. I'm going to be honest here, in a relationship. She made me realize that. Why am I doing that? I want to say something that I sort of came to a conclusion on in the sessions. If someone wants something, they'll tell you that they want something. You don't have to think for the person. Mm-hmm. What I tend to do is I sometimes think for the person.
Do you think that like you tend to do that because one can't necessarily blame you, because not necessarily a matter of overthinking, right? But we can add that into the chat as well. But I'm thinking, you study sociology, you study psychology, you study politics. These are all things that have to do with like the human condition and how humans behave.
Yeah.
So automatically, naturally, you are sort of like inclined to try and like accommodate everyone in that sense. But then it's one of those things where like first year, second year, kind of like started unlearning this in second year, was I would profile everyone. I would treat everyone like my psychology practical in a sense, without realizing that I was doing that. It would be a matter of like listening to the person, talking to the person, asking them questions, and basically I was kind of like acting the role of a therapist based off of textbooks. That's not necessarily ethical, but then the thing is, at the point in which you start investing so much in your academic life like that and start living out the theories you learn, could probably have an influence on that. So while you are, of course, like in a sense, responsible for that, is it really a bad thing? Sure it is, but at what point does it become a bad thing?
I want to make a comment. You read your textbook Thursday.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I thought I was
you applied what you learned. I don't even know what
But ask me. But ask me now.
Okay. But I hear what you're saying, I really do. And again, what I'm realizing is that life is a process of learning and unlearning. Behaviors, patterns, just ways of living, really. It's hard. I told someone on Wednesday that it seems like I'm probably going to be in therapy my entire life.
And that's also fine.
There's nothing wrong with that. I got that. There's nothing wrong with that. Because again, you do need that mirror, because she makes you look at yourself. Well, not her specifically, but the process of therapy.
Yeah.
But it makes you look at yourself, because the one thing someone else told me this, or not told me this, it was an answer to a question. I was at a workshop at one point, and it was just saying that you have the answers to your questions within you. And I realized in the entire process of, let's just say, talking to this lady, she asks you what you're thinking. They say, why did you do that? Why did you feel like that? They don't give you answers.
Don't you have like one of those moments sometimes where like, what am I paying for here? Like, what am I doing? Like, what is the job?
That is one of the first sessions was like, she made me not do things, but answer certain questions where it's like, I could have answered these at home, I could have Googled this literally at home, and I don't know which website, but I could have done this at home. But then I started to realize, like, wow, this actually helps. It makes you sit down, and kudos to, oh my god, I don't want to mention things, but like my previous partner, she actually contributed to that particular aspect, because when we spoke about her journey with mental health and everything, for me it was always that thing, yeah, I'm good, bro. It wasn't one of those situations where I had never tried mental health. There have been in my life situations and scenarios where I went in and I went out. I went in and went out with therapy. When I say went in and went out, you know that thing where you were saying, what am I paying you for? Earlier in my life, it was always like, why am I paying you for this? But as I kept going to this person this year, they made me, I'm going to tell you something. Beginning of this year again, I attempted therapy again. This was Feb and March. After like the third session, I was like, we're wasting money again. I left. This time around, I came back and, just to sort of work out my, I want to say ish. And the questions, basically, I just felt like it was a waste of time again. And I felt like it wasn't helping. I was like, what? The questions, well, not really questions, but I could have done that with you, basically. I could have sat down and be like, yo, Marlice, this is what I'm going through, yo. And how does that make you feel? Well, that's not what they asked me. That's not what they asked me. I can't even recall, but it was something. It was related to something else. But I just left it there because I was like, I'm wasting my time here. Let me just stop. And I was like, emailed them like, hey man, something came up, you know, I think I'm good. Like, I was just trying this out again, and yeah. But then I came back, second semester, my God. It's been a year, man. It's been a year filled with lessons. I didn't even realize I needed some of these lessons. I don't know how I just moved from therapy into just talking about the year in itself, but my gosh. I think someone said, was it you?
What did I say?
2023 has been...
I see it Monday.
Yeah,
What did I say?
No, I'm trying to grab it in my memory and be like, 2023 is not the year that we expected, but it is the year that we needed.
I said that?
No, I don't think you said that.
Yeah, I was like, I was almost.
Were
I was
you
like,
present?
I thought you said that. I was like,
The thing, I might be confused because I think I might have seen you afterwards. That's why I'm like.
I didn't say that. Yeah, I normally take credit for like a lot of smart sayings, and wise, but yeah, this one I did not say.
It could have been a TikTok too. Yeah, I think I spent way too much time on that.
Yeah, there's also wisdom on TikTok.
I was looking, can I tell you something?
Yeah?
I have this critique about certain life experts on TikTok.
Why?
Y'all give platforms to everybody. Sorry. And one thing about certain individuals on that app is that they're not giving you the option to think about what it is that they're giving to you. They're literally shoving it down your throat. It's like, hey, these are the lessons I learned in my 20s, and this is what you should be doing in your 20s. And I'm like, I want to live. I want to make the mistakes so I can learn from those mistakes. I'm not saying you can't take from a certain individual's book and like, you know how when you're writing in academics, you can take a quote here and there. If you take the entire thing, it's plagiarism. I think in life, plagiarism exists too. Don't take everyone's thing. Just take quotes and credit, but I got that from that person. You know,
so what you said about how your therapist practically forced you to kind of like answer some questions that you probably could have gotten off of Google, kind of like just shows how...
It wasn't the answers, it was the questions.
Yeah, but listen, what I'm saying is it practically shows how humans kind of need to be directed. There's no manual to life. Everyone says that. And because there's no manual to life, that's where you get the TikTok experts. Because I did this, you now have to do that, so that you don't have to go through the things that I've went through before. But then at the same time, I also hear your chat about having to live your life first for your own self. I think it also kind of like also, in a sense, kind of like opens a conversation for identity. Basically, who are you? It's a conversation I was also having recently, and I kind of like think I want to like have a longer form conversation around it. But then basically you have your family and you have a certain identity within your family. You have your culture. There's also a certain identity within that. You have a social identity. You have this identity that you're trying to form for yourself, and your 20s are basically like those years where you try and like figure that out. Like, who are you outside of all these Asians of society, I suppose? So who is the self, and how does the self relate to community? But also, how does community benefit the self as well? So basically, the point is we have all these institutions of socialization, right?
Yeah.
But then, who are you outside of all those institutions? Because it goes back to that thing that like, the self is not entirely unique. You are not your own person.
You're a product of your interactions.
Exactly, and that is how the self forms. So basically, it shows the importance of therapy, that these are things that are like, they're already here, but until someone brings it to your attention, chances are you're not going to interrogate that. Yeah. It's the thing about like how ignorance is bliss. It's bliss because you're not necessarily thinking about these things. Right now we know that there's a war going on, right? But like, it's not necessarily affecting
which war?
The Gaza thingy thing.
So many wars in the world.
Yeah, that thing. Look, but let's just talk about like all the wars that humanity faced. Oh my word, did I really say that so passively? That was not the intention. But
I had a stand with the people of Palestine. We stand with the Palestinians. We stand with the people of Palestine. Our hearts and condolences to those that have lost families during this difficult time.
The point I was trying to make is that you have all these people and all these organizations, practices, and all of those things basically trying to like form a sense of community and direction, because we don't necessarily take it upon ourselves when there is no pressure. Like you literally see this in your personal goals and your academic goals, because there's a deadline to your academic goals. Chances are you're going to go all out for all those academic things. But then the things that you have in your personal life, you have to conclude now. So, yeah, do you have like any parting words?
I don't have any parting words. I think the conversation was at some point just regarding about life. That didn't sound right. Let's leave that. Just live, learn from your experiences, just try to be yourself in whatever you do. Only you know yourself, as much as society or interactions might contribute to the life that you have to live. I say this a lot. Oh no, in my head, obviously, you probably don't know this, but like, you know yourself, you know who you are, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know all of that stuff. I wanted to say Jazz.
You said it.
Okay, yeah. I think just work on yourself as an individual. Just be kind to yourself, man. I feel like the one thing I've been learning is that I'm not kind to myself. I beat myself up about way too much. You guys don't know this. There's too much going on in my head. And if someone doesn't tell you something, like let's say what someone wants, what someone needs from you, don't think for them. Okay, that's a very bad thing to say, because it might lead to
it's
things.
The same thing I did with that thingy. You are where you're supposed to be chat.
Wait.
It's well intentioned, but then it could be
misunderstood.
Yeah.
I had thoughts earlier, but closing remarks. Wait. I think I'm done. We will take this one off air. Just thoughts that I have. I have too many thoughts, and no, I don't do drugs. I should be doing drugs because I think they would just sort of quiet down whatever's going on in my head. But anyways, I am. Are you going to close off the thing, or should I just keep going?
I need to speak. I'm just waiting for you to give me a chance, and don't tell me that I have to cut this part out.
No, you're not cutting. No, you don't need to cut this part out. My eye might be red, but I'm Lufezo, not he. Instead of Napola. I don't know why I said that in a white accent. This was great. It was chaotic, but great. I wish we had more time, honestly. I think we should start doing these like an hour-long thing. Hey, she's gonna speak at some point. She's very angry. Take it away.
Hi, I'm Marlice Mackenzie, and I have no emotions of anger. That probably means that I may have an emotional dysregularity, something, because I rarely experience anger, but I do experience frustration. I do experience disappointment. I do experience being that word that is apparently low-key vulgar, but it sounds something like pissed.
What?
So pissed. Pissed.
You could have said it, man. Come on now.
That's not the point. So, Anyway, this has been a very nice, chaotic. Oh no, never mind. It has been a really nice. It has been a chaotically interesting, enjoyable video and audio podcast.
I want to say
thank you so much for coming and tuning in. Please do comment, like, and subscribe. If you are listening on the audio platforms, please give us a rating. Back to Lufezo.
I'm sorry for this cutting in as we were speaking, but I realize this is somewhat of, it's probably like a 65 to 70% accurate depiction of everyday conversations. But this one seemed a bit more structured.
Exactly.
And we tried to finish a point.
This actually went pretty decent because, like, earlier on, as we were coming onto campus, we were having a conversation and then we started talking about other things. Mind you, we got on campus probably at 3:30. But we walked in this building at 4:25-ish, and we only finished the first conversation we had when we walked onto campus, when we entered the building, because we had kind of like deviated from that. But I think that's just like, we probably think that's not normal, but then chances are it's actually normal.
Yeah, hey.
So,
for all your psychologists out there, you're all wonderful people, my God. That lady has taught me a lot of the behaviors which I think are strange, very normal. Hi, goodbye.